Councilmember Matthew Eugene joins the Simon Wiesenthal Center at City Hall to present the annual Digital Terror and Hate Report.
Good afternoon. I'm New York City Councilmember Matthew Eugene, and I'm the chair of the Committee on Civil and Human Rights. I am honored to host the release of the 2019 Digital Terrorism and Hate Report prepared by Simon Wiesenthal Center. I've long respected the work of this wonderful center, and you know that I know the Simon Wiesenthal is serving people from all backgrounds, race, color, religion, and affiliation. And I represent also a constituency that is as diverse as United General Assembly. This Jewish human rights organization and teaching institution stand up against hate, but also stand for the forces of mutual respect each and every day. It also serves the people of this great city of New York by exposing the ever-morphing tactic of bigots whose hatred threatens us, whatever our faith, creed, or color. Today we are joined by the Simon Wiesenthal Center Associate Dean Abraham Cooper, as well as the Digital Terrorism and Hate Report Director, Richard Ayton, and the Center's Eastern Director, our good friend, Michael Curran. We are pleased also to be joined by my colleague in government. I know he's very busy, he has to leave. Councilmember Barry Chick, and also we have with us members of the Jewish leaders in the Jewish community that I'm going to acknowledge also. We are pleased to have with us Rabbi Eli Cohen and Rabbi Hanina Sperling of the Kornheim Jewish Community Council. Rabbi Joseph Potasnik, everybody knows this name. And when Rabbi is here, Joe is here, that means if you are bored with me, you're going to be happy when you start talking. He's the vice president of the New York Board of Rabbi, and we have also some other members of the community over here. We have district leader Jeffrey Davis. And I got also from the Haitian community, my brother Maxime Eugene, and the Reverend Pastor Albert Joseph, and other friends also from the community. And I'm pleased also to mention that we have two very important members of the Civil and Human Rights Committee, Balkis and Leah. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here. I look forward to today's presentation that provides us a real-time picture of contemporary anti-Semitism, racism, and how we may play a greater role in combating the new and old hatred that has contributed to an environment of increased anti-Semitism and other hate crime right here in New York City. Therefore, today also, I'm announcing that the Human and Civil Rights Committee will hold hearings in the near future on the effect of digital hate and digital terror and our midst, and work closely with organizations such as the Simon Wiesenthal Center to help advise how our city council can be part of the response to the dangerous bigots in our midst. The shooter and the deadliest anti-Semitic attack in the United States. You all remember that 11 Jews murdered at prayer in synagogue. He found inspiration and validation in social media. Social media platforms are used to spread anti-Semitism and racism. Bigots are now leveraging popular gaming sites to demand the memory of Holocaust and celebrate Nazi symbols like swastika. ISIS and other terrorists may be defeated, however, on the battlefield, but continue to use internet to celebrate terrorist attack and encourage more targeting of innocent civilians on both sides of the Atlantic. The Simon Wiesenthal Center's social media report card proves that social media giants can and must do more to degrade the capabilities of racist, anti-Semitic, and terrorists. And I want to thank all of you who are here today, because this is a very important thing. We should all work together to prevent the increase of racism and anti-Semitism. Because this is not good for our society, not good for New York City. It doesn't concern only one ethnic background, not only the Jewish, but all of us who have been witnessing so many crimes of racism, anti-Semitism in New York City. It is time that all of us will stand together, because New York City should be a place where all of us, regardless of where we came from, we can live peacefully with our children and family members. Because New York is strong and powerful because of the contribution of all of us. And we owe to each of us respect and acceptance. So I thank you all for being here. Now I would like to call on my colleagues, Barry.
Thank you.
Because I know that he has to go.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for being here. Thank you for those who carry the message of this report from the Simon Wiesenthal Center, which, as we know, has been in the forefront of combating anti-Semitism and really all forms of hatred. We will soon, in the Jewish community in this city and around the world, celebrate the holiday of Purim. It commemorates the victory of the Jews over our hated, I don't know what they're called, over the hated prime minister of the king, Haman, may his name be obliterated.
Thank you so much. Now let me call the Associate Dean of Simon Wiesenthal, Rabbi Abraham Cooper.
Thank you, Dr. Eugene. I've been with the Simon Wiesenthal Center since its inception 41 years ago. A quarter of a century ago, we began a project called Digital Terrorism and Hate, when we saw some of the bigots like David Duke and others go on to this new technology that eventually became known as the Internet. Today, in 2019, there's a lot of material to cover. I want to keep it very focused and point to 5 warnings from social media, the infection of hate and terror online, what those 5 points are, and to briefly outline what steps we can take to combat it. We're so grateful to the councilmen for convening this meeting here at the City Council, here at City Hall in New York. We of course wanted to do here, unfortunately, because of the spike in hate crimes in this wonderful city, which I am a native of, and in which, unfortunately, in the NYPD statistics show from last year that the number of attacks against Jews here in New York, hate crime attacks, was more than double the rest of the entire total. No group would want to be in first place in such a list, and we certainly do not want to be there. But the spike in hate crimes is a reality, and it's especially alarming here in the Big Apple, which is home to the single largest Jewish community in the world. Here are the 5 takeaways from our report that challenge all Americans, not just Jews, including our policymakers, law enforcement, the media, our social leaders, parents, teachers, our kids, and of course the social media companies themselves. Number 1, the shooter at the Pittsburgh synagogue, the deadliest single attack against Jewish Americans in the history of our country. 11 people at prayer butchered by this murderer. found inspiration and validation on social media. In fact, the back cover of our report has a picture of the Tree of Life Synagogue, as well as the quotes from Bauer's posting just before he left for the murders. And that was put up on a platform called Gad. Maybe many of you have never heard it before, but as you'll see, it's listed under a topic here, an area we call alt tech. This is also going to bring us to the to one of the talking points, which is sometimes in the name of free speech and sometimes for ideological reasons. We now have an almost complete set of social media options, from a Facebook-like Gad to Bright Real Video to BitChute to Discuss. All of our efforts, the efforts of community activists across the United States and elsewhere, have helped to push some of the extremist groups off of Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. They have found homes elsewhere, mostly with companies that have few, if any, rules. There's so much talk about the Russian influence and fake news and all the rest. When you get a chance, go to VK.com. VK.com is basically the Russian Facebook. It's number 18, I believe it, right? Number 18 in terms of traffic in the world. They don't have any of the rules that Facebook and some of the other companies have begun to institute. And as a result, many extremists, and remember, everything global on the internet is local, and everything local is global. It almost doesn't make a difference where you post it from. They're one of the big five, and they're one of the big problems that we have yet collectively, as a global community, to deal with. So together, the all-tech platforms and VK.com make for a subculture of hate and also feeds into the food chain of terrorism. Number 4, and I think in many ways this is extremely important because it's relatively early. Bigots of all stripes have now begun to leverage popular gaming sites. If you have a kid at home, or if you are a kid at heart, you may be on a game, on a platform, playing people all over the world. 99% of that activity, millions of people, is all positive. But because of the capability of communicating with others, we've begun to see, and my colleague Rick Eaton will show you shortly, the kinds of communications that are beginning to percolate within the games. And many of those games, among the most popular, allow you to create your own version of the game. That's part of the charm. Well, unfortunately, that's also given the opportunity for people who want to promote the swastika, to denigrate the victims of Auschwitz, etc., to now go into a new arena that's dominated by young people, and so far, they've avoided real responsibility. The next point is that ISIS and other terrorist groups, Al-Qaeda, Al-Shabaab, but especially ISIS, now essentially defeated on the battlefield, is far from defeated on the internet. We're going to be hearing and having problems from ISIS for years, if not decades to come. Their message is to, first of all, reinforce and reinvigorate some of their fighters that have returned to Western democracies on both sides of the Atlantic. And whenever there's an attack in Paris or Brussels or in Kenya, you will see within an hour that really eye-popping visuals, posters, celebrating the mass murders, celebrating the terrorism, looking to recruit young people around the world to their cause. And finally, and I'm sorry to have to report that Facebook which for years we pointed to as a template for other social media companies to follow. Their grade has now been brought down from what was an A to a B minus. It's obviously a massive company. We meet with Facebook regularly. We'll be having a meeting with them next month in California. But when we found out, confirmed, that Facebook was allowing the selling of online ads to individuals who are marketing neo-Nazi material and profiting from it, that is something that never should have happened and was only caught not by their own tripwires, but by the media. For Facebook to fall down on the job usually means that the other companies will be less inclined to do what they need to do. Having said that, I want to also call out Twitter. Twitter, for the first 3 years of this report card, got Fs. They were the weapon of choice of ISIS, sending out 200,000 tweets a day. They've turned their game around, and they're now getting rid of the terrorism and the hate material and the hate hashtags. Which brings me to the final grade there. You see Instagram, used by millions and millions of people. What a great program and a great technology. Unfortunately, the bigots, the racists, the terrorists have also discovered Instagram, and while they will take the material down that we have flagged, as we'll show you in the PowerPoint, the hate and racist and anti-Semitic hashtags and IDs from Instagram have not been removed. So we have a mixed bag here, and one other area I didn't talk about are the messaging apps. The biggest problem there, which no one has yet been able to address or solve, and that's true also for the alt-tech. Everybody here benefits from something called encryption. Every credit card we have, everything we do online, if you didn't have encryption possibility, we couldn't do any online commerce. Unfortunately, the terrorists, including our domestic terrorists, are using now services and platforms that offer both unencrypted, public, out in the open communications, and also encrypted communications. That's a terrible challenge, difficult challenge for not only the New York anti-hate crime efforts by the police, but also for the intelligence services for Homeland Security and other intelligence agencies around the world. So again, we're extremely grateful for the opportunity to bring our report here first in New York City. I want to present to Councilman Eugene the first copy that we're releasing anywhere in the world. I want to give it to him, and especially as he's announced, there will be hearings coming in the near future. We'll be back to be a part of that process as well. So, Councilman, thank you so much for your efforts. I'm going to ask my colleague, Rick Eaton, to join me here at the podium in a minute. Before Rick goes through the PowerPoint, which will be very quick, I do want to ask the two great community leaders. Rabbi Joe Potasnik is an international leader. He's been very focused on the internet issues. I think he was just in the United Arab Emirates on the issue of child trafficking. There are so many challenges and problems online. He is one of the great human rights leaders in the Jewish world, and someone who I've known and admired for decades. So I'm not surprised that you're close with each other, and I'd like to ask him, along with one of the other community activists, to say a few words.
Thank you, Rabbi Cooper, for those kind words. I must tell you, when I walked in and saw the report card, I was alarmed. I thought you had a copy of my high school report card. Thank God it wasn't that. Let me just say, Councilman Eugene is there for all communities. Every time there's an attack on any individual, any group, you know that Matthew Eugene will be in the front of the line condemning that hatred. I look at members of the Lubavitch community who are here, and I want to apologize for something many of us did. 1991, you had the vicious pogrom, the attack on your community. I think many took the position, that's your problem. That's not our problem. I think over the years, when members of the African American community, Haitian community, gay community are attacked, there are many who say, not our problem. When I came back from the United Arab Emirates and learned about online child abuse, I said to people, these are our kids, and therefore their problems are our problems. I was with Cardinal Dolan this morning as we brought the Irish and the Jewish community together, and he said something to me that is so important. He said anti-Semitism is anti-Christianity, is anti-Islam, and therefore it's a problem that all of us must address together. We can't say it's yours, not ours. So let me just leave you with this thought. You know that in English, the word united and the word untied are spelled with the exact same letters. The only difference is where you put the I. I think the same thing is true in life. When people speak of I rather than we, the relationship becomes untied, becomes yours, not ours. But where the we takes precedence over the I, then we are united. Thank you, Simon Wiesenthal Center, Rabbi Cooper, Michael Cohen, all the good people that you have. Thank you, Matthew Eugene, all of you. And let's make sure that this year we never say again, it's your problem, not our problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Eugene, my council member.
Let me say that also, Rabbi Alina Spelling is a leader in the Crown Heights community, and he's also for all communities. Anytime that I'm doing something, whether for the Haitian community, as Rabbi Joe said, or Pakistani, or Jewish community, Caribbean, he's always here with us, and also with good friend Rabbi Cohen, who's going to say something about that, I believe. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Councilman Eugene. You know, we speak about, first I want to thank the councilman for everything that he does for the Crown Heights community and above. He's always there for us and for everybody. You know, Crown Heights went through a lot. And over the last 18 months, we have to have at least about 20 or above 20 attacks onto the Jewish community. For one reason, and one reason only, because they were Jewish.
Who is doing a lot of good work, good job, bringing people together from different communities and serving also people from different backgrounds.
I'm really honored to be part of this gathering. I think it's a very important message, and it doesn't just resonate, it resonates certainly nationally and internationally, but it also resonates specifically in Crown Heights, as Rabbi Skolin spoke about the number of incidents that have taken place locally in our local community, some of them in the council member's district. And the point here is that there are messages that are going out, and they are heard, and they do result in action in different ways. And it's very important for us to know, especially several of the incidents that took place in Crown Heights involved young people as the perpetrators. So we certainly want to see that this should be at least monitored and controlled to the extent that it can, and the results will have an effect internationally, nationally, and also very locally. And I want to thank the council member and thank the Simon Wiesenthal Center for being on top of this issue. And I know that local law enforcement also, the New York City Police Department and the DA's office are also very aware of the relevance of what goes on online to what happens in our local community.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I just want to add that this issue, as Rabbi Joe said, is my brother. I'm allowed to call him Joe because this is how we call him, all of us, because we love him so much. And this issue, as Rabbi Joe said, is not a Jewish issue, not a Muslim issue, not a Haitian issue, Pakistani issue. It's a human being issue. if we see what is happening in our community, we see so many crime, but all of us, we are affected. And it is our moral responsibility to come together, to work together, and to stop this type of behavior. And we owe that to our children, to the next generation. United States and New York City should be, as I said before, a place where we all can live together in respect and appreciation for each other. New York City is a great city. United States is a great country, not because of the contribution of one group of people, no. It is because of the contribution of so many people coming from everywhere. And we will be a powerful country, a powerful city, when we work together to ensure that we respect each other. When we come together to work and to ensure that everybody, everyone in the United States, everyone in New York City has the right to be who he is or she is. I don't have to change because of somebody doesn't like me. I don't have to change. I don't have to force to change myself. I got the right to be who I am. He got the right to be who he is, and she has the right to be who she is. And today I think this is a wonderful, wonderful, very important press conference, a very important event. There are many information I didn't know about them. Many of us, we didn't know about those things. But the thing is, those people who are doing evil do. They are organized, they know how to convince people, they have resources, and we also, we have to come together. And I'm asking, and I hope, and I'm going to continue to do that, to reach out all the level of government, city, state, and federal government. We have to come together. It is our moral obligation to protect our society and to make sure that the children who will be the leaders of tomorrow, they don't have in mind this attitude, that spirit of division, destruction, and discrimination. And I want to conclude by thanking Simon Wiesenthal Center. And Rabbi Cooper, thank you so very much. I know you traveled from far to come over here to instruct us, and this is so instrumental. And I'm going to use that also.
We'll be there
To
with
talk with my colleague in the city council to ensure that we in the city council will do what we should do, what is right. Not only for Simon Wiesenthal, not only for the Jewish community, but for New York City.